Are you ready? Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Hitman. Let's put on our inner Rons. You know, you got to bring it out. Leave the Gary behind. We are gonna get into Ron right now.
No, leave him on. Leave him on. Leave him on.
For the whole
leave
review.
Him on.
Oh, you
the
prefer
entire thing.
You prefer my Ron side.
It's like cool. Ron, yeah. You're my Ron right now.
Anyways, hit us with
what
the
kind of
line.
podcaster should I be?
Oh, podcast is good podcast.
He's not a killer, but he can pretend. A mild-mannered professor moonlighting as a fake contract killer sparks a chain reaction of trouble when he falls for a client. Ewan, open quote, "This is your favorite movie of the year," close quote. And I'm quite shocked by that, but it's come to me, but I'll let you continue.
Yeah, so like technically this movie has leapfrogged its way from my 2020. I feel silly with the glasses, but I'll leave them on. Leapfrog its way from 2023 onto 2024. If I look at 2024, I do like Perfect Days more than this. I do like May December more than this. There's an argument for The Zone of Interest. Past Lives is over it. So it's not like it's this immovable force. And on the rewatch as well, now on Netflix, without the very enthusiastic Venice audience that I got to see this with back last early September last year, there was something that was missing. So my main critique of the film, it didn't change in my rating. I still give it a 4.5. I don't give 5 stars on the first watch. It's not like it moved up to a 5-star. I don't think it's a perfect movie, but I'm a huge Richard Linklater fan. And if he's able to create chemistry between two people, and it works for me, there's nothing really better than that, because it's like as close as to movie magic as we can get, as like close to being entranced and just really in with the narrative of these two characters who are connecting, and they shouldn't. They're bad for each other. It's some would say maybe it's even toxic, but it's also sexy. It's steamy, and then there's frills, and then there's laughs. It's got it all. So like, you know, we don't really get adult centered comedies anymore unless it's like about like saying fuck 200 times or it's really meta. This movie is not that really. It has like certain fourth wall breaking bits, but that's more about the premise of adapting Gary Johnson's life. There's like one thing at the beginning and one at the ending, and that's it. But the rest of it is just so much fun. And usually films aren't really that. There's like something serious, like an underlying tone with it a bit more. And this movie is just enjoyable from beginning to end. And that's why I like it so much. Yeah, but I haven't had your thoughts. I saw that. Well, you texted me and were like, you're surprised that this one is my favorite of the year, and I'm wondering why you think it's surprising that I like it. Because it's like maybe not one that makes me cry, or what do you think? Why is this special?
No. So it's really funny because you're somebody who has seen a lot of indie films this year, and one of the things I will say is indie films have slowly become some of my favorite movies of each year. Like some of my favorite films of the year have slowly become, if you look at my like top 10 from like 2016, and then make my way up to like 2024, it used to be more and more blockbusters, but now it's become more and more independent stuff. And this film wasn't really trying to say anything. That's the crazy thing. It was just an entertaining film. And it seemed too mainstream for Ewan to say it's his favorite movie of the year. But
really,
that's the wild thing is like, so I was thinking my favorite film of the year. So far, I've given 2 5 stars, and that's Dune Part 2. That's Challengers. The only other like bigger star ratings I can think of would have been most recently with Furiosa. I've given movies like Civil War 4 stars. I gave Monkey Man 3.5. Planet of the Apes 4 stars. Love Lies Bleeding 3.5. Sasquatch Sunset 3.5. So I'm just thinking like Fall Guy, another big popular movie, 3.5. And it's crazy because we had very similar ratings on that. So I thought that far, and you've seen some of and I've heard, Cannes was a bit mid this year. I get it, but there are some really interesting ones that came out of there apparently, and I'm shocked that one of those hasn't taken your top spot. It's crazy to think that Hitman is kind of sitting at Glenn
can sit at the top, and he can stay there. So like currently my top 6 is half of those are films from Gunn. So it's not like Gunn was bad. It's just and if you look at my top 10, oh, this is wrong. Oops, something snuck in there that shouldn't be there. But like, it's mainly
Rebel
still
Moon.
festival films. No, I have like a random film that I gave 3.5 stars in my top 10. I don't know what I did. My rank list needs to be fixed there. But my number 2 at the moment is Anora, and there's an argument to be made. Maybe it's better. Like Dune might be better than this film. Challenges might be better. But we had a similar situation last year where I had May December and everyone was like turning heads, and I was like, "What the fuck are you doing?
Why the
And I
fuck
was
is
like,
May December there? Yeah.
this is great. I love that type of when there's character drama between a couple people that just works for me.
But
And this
May
movie's not
December is
deep
a
at
hard
all.
one though. Because
Yeah,
May
yeah.
December it's weird because I mean it's weird and it's either a hit or miss. Where so far I think that this film has been quite positive to everyone. I think the lowest rating I've got currently from Activity with Friends is 3 stars. I think most people are sitting at like a 3.5, 4 star.
Yeah, the most popular thing is
most people are
4
sitting at a
stars,
4
yeah.
star.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's like exactly where this film kind of deserves to be. I think that the film doesn't say anything, it's nothing crazy, but it was entertaining as all hell, and it was a bit like The Fall Guy. The Fall Guy didn't really do anything, it was just entertaining, and that film was longer and way more complex, so it entertained you in different ways, where this is completely running off of the charisma between Glenn Powell and Adria
Arjona.
Arjona. Like, those two are just absolutely fantastic as Gary and Madison in this, and they ran like the entire movie. I was just like, I'm fascinated by you two.
Yeah, and then even like supporting cast like Austin Emilio, who is or Amelio, becomes really integral towards well, he's essential
towards the
part
end
of the film. Yeah. Maybe we'll get into spoiler talks and specifics to talk about like more of the ending stuff, and once we get further into it and talk our favorite hitman persona, which the one of the things that maybe make this movie a bit lesser is that it ended up on Netflix. It had a pretty bad poster of showing the different variations of I guess the costumes that he puts on, because in the movie because at the premiere in Venice, one of the standouts was just that there was a burst of laughter each time it cuts to like a new persona, because you're not expecting it. We went into not knowing what Hitman was about. It could have been a straight like he's actually a hitman, because I didn't read the premise, and I went in and I was so surprised by like these different personas that he puts on. It's like on a rewatch that doesn't hit as hard, because you're like you're not surprised by it anymore. I feel like it gets pretty like, no, not even clever. It's just like it's just fun, and I don't have to think about it too much. It's also something that runs through the narrative of, why am I blanking on his name? What's his name? Gary, I guess, or Ron, that he's not really thinking clearly of what he should do. He clearly should not get involved with someone who would have been a potential client of someone that he's trying to lock up. But I can wholeheartedly believe that he just ignores the red flags. And like my most recent log of the film was just, is there even a thing like red flags if she's hot enough? And that's essentially what happens in this film. There's just too much chemistry for them to not pursue each other. And I believe them. And that's so rare. So many romance films, which I am a big fan of, like the Before trilogy, like I famously say, is my favorite trilogy of all time. And that's just evoked that type of energy from it. And you can feel it in those latter two Before films. Julie Delpy and Ethan Hawke were co-writers of the film. They got even an uncredited thing for the first one. They wrote that one as well. So it's attributed to the people actually portraying the people to get that sort of natural chemistry in what they write on the page onto what they film. And having Glenn Powell as a co-writer for this film just shows that this dude is a movie star and he's going to stay there. This dude has staying power. He's very confident, even in his unconfident self. Like he's like smooth. And usually when you have someone like that on screen, he's very punchable usually. But for him, it's like you either want to punch him or you want to kiss him. Like it's between that, like those two extremes. And maybe the punching is even, consenting. It's a bit of rough play fun.
Do both.
There's like this, yeah, give me a bit of both. And yeah, it's just great. It's just great. It made me like him even more. And yeah, I've talked too much. I've talked more than enough. I want to hear more of your thoughts.
What kept me in was first of all, those two, Glenn Powell and Adria.
Yeah.
Secondly, I think narratively the film flowed quite well. It took a hot minute for it to get into the narrative of the two main characters, but I think that it was enough time for it to kind of build up
like
what
30
was
minutes
going on
before she pops up.
to build up Gary, so that you have a great juxtaposition between Gary's life and who Ron is as a character. And so everyone knows, because we're in non-spoilers, Gary is played by Glenn Powell. He is the main, like, that's him. Like, Gary is his name, but he plays a bunch of different hitman. First one, this one is Ron, and it's a way different, like, confident, cool, sexy, funny, badass hitman, and that's kind of like his thing. He changes the hitman to the person he's trying to catch, right? So essentially, he works with the police as a techie. All of a sudden, Jasper, he's fired for, beating up a bunch of teenagers, I think it was. So they throw in Gary, and then Gary then tailors his hitman, which is each of his characters, to the person he's trying to catch out. Essentially, he gets them, basically people, message him to hire a hitman. He's undercover for the police. Then the police arrest them for trying to hire a hit on somebody. So essentially that's what he does. And to see all of these different individual characters, I wish there was a bit more of that. I wish we got to see a bit more of the characters. I thought it was going to be, from the trailers, I thought it was going to be Master of Disguise film where he plays a bunch of different characters as a hitman, and that's kind of what I thought I was getting into. So I guess I was a bit disappointed by there not being that. But the film I ended up getting instead was way better, because I wasn't expecting a romance movie, and the thing was, I wasn't going to be recommending this to Tanika either until I watched it and was like, I'm going to show this to Tanika, and she loved it as well. Like, we both had a great time watching it, because it was like, it was an actually fun film without having any of the bullshit that you get in like big blockbusters. And it was enjoyable. So it was just, it's a well-crafted movie. You said it perfectly. Like, Richard Linklater knows what he is doing. I haven't seen a lot of Linklater's stuff. I've only seen the Before series. I've seen this. I've seen School of Rock.
Boyhood?
And that's pretty much it. I haven't seen Boyhood.
Oh, you haven't seen Boyhood? That movie, every time I watch it, makes me cry at like one scene, just because it gets to place. And I feel like there's a sense of underlying profundity, of making sense of what he's going through without really like pulling you along. That loose thread of him as a professor, bringing up these ideas of the self, of your identity, of your of the id and the super ego connecting to the ego. That's like the bridge between instinct and logic, the law of the lawless, forever attempting to maximize pleasure while minimizing the cost. And it's like, this character doesn't get deep. We don't explore don't explore him at all. Like, we don't get much of his inner workings, how he came to be, how he's so fucking ripped, and why he doesn't wear contact lenses, stuff like that. But it doesn't really matter, because it strings you along for there's a spark between these two people, and it's a bad situation that they're caught up in, and that's all it is. And usually I'm someone, maybe that's like I said, it feels lighter, it feels like more like a blockbuster where the stakes aren't really there. But it is like, the stakes are there. So I feel like it all falls into a place, and it's just like, it's a hitman in disguise, disguising itself as like a really broad Netflix movie about like, hey, he dresses up a bunch of times, really silly, and tricks people, and that's going to be the main gist of the film. That's really funny. That's not the core of why this movie works so much. It's on the back of that romance. If that chemistry between those two people doesn't work, the whole movie falls apart. Like, we have to believe, and they said this in interviews as well, I'm taking this pretty much verbatim from what Linklater and Powell have said, is that if you don't believe that he falls head over heels for this woman on the first thing, this whole movie falls apart. And maybe we could talk about a bit more about that in like spoilers, to briefly talk about that. Again, if you got a VPN, you're outside of the US or any of the other places where it's streaming, connect to that. Do yourself a favor and watch this, and maybe even watch some more Linklater. I can really recommend it. But as tensions rise as we progress further into full-on spoilers now, and she does the deed and kills her ex, you slowly, like, there's a power shift maybe that happens, before he reveals that he's not actually a hitman, where you, like, at least my thought was like, oh no, is he just being incredibly, like, is he being played, and it goes into the femme fatale type of trope or something like that, where he's being exploited. But I love that it circles back to, no, it's just like a romance. They're just hot for each other. And I don't know what you felt about like that. Or, like, did the thrilling parts of it, like, was that good, or were you really looking for more comedy? Yeah, how do you feel about that?
So I didn't. Okay, so people. I get it's a comedy, but I didn't laugh. I just felt
Yeah.
the situation, like it felt quite situational, where, oh yep, this is really weird and awkward right now. That's quite funny to me. I didn't laugh every time I see a different costume. I didn't laugh at any of like the stupid stuff. There would be a funny line delivered, and I was like, yep. The way that Glenn Powell reacts to particular things with his face was quite funny. The back and forth in one particular scene was quite funny between Gary and Madison. And for me, that was the comedy to it. So I didn't think the film needed more comedy, because I thought it was lighthearted enough. And I think that the over the top and the not how unserious it was, because the film gets serious at points with where it goes, but I just felt like the way certain events would unfold were quite comedic, and I felt like that was the fun part of it. Was I thought the story was going one place, the story actually went somewhere else, and I was okay with that. So the adventure that I thought I was going to go on didn't happen, and the story I ended up going on was actually better than where I thought it was going to go. So for me, I thought that the film just hit on every single mark, and I was having a great time.
Did you have like a favorite fake Gary?
Not real. As I said, they don't spend too much time with them, so I can't really tell you which one's my favorite. I really liked the Russian one, the one where he does the fake Russian accent, because I actually thought that one was kind of funny, because it had a wig, fake teeth. I don't think he was wearing glasses, but he says like a line where it's like, huh, like Miami Vice. And I thought that was like a really fun interaction. But for me, I didn't have it. It's between that one and the really weird one. The Tilda Swinton one, because those are the only ones that they actually had like massive amounts of dialogue.
The only other one is when he's with the like freedom shirt and he shoots skeets, I think, with one dude. That's where there's a bit more dialogue. Yeah, the other ones are quite brief. I think
you need like three things. It's like blank, and balls, and I've got a muff of that last one, and whacks the guy in the nuts. Yeah, that was a good, and like that line was funny. The way he delivered that particular line, and for me, that was the comedic part to the film, and I feel like the film needed more moments where he is that hitman, but then you get less of the relationship, and for me, that's where the film was going. The film was actually a rom-com, and I didn't realize it was, and I'm glad it was, because I actually had a great time with it.
There's the one scene in the court where he's like, I think he's confronted twice, when it's about like, the first time he's a bad person for doing this, the second time, why does he dress up? I feel like they all always kind of tie in thematically to what just happened or what's coming up. I think 4 times we cut back to his class. To me, I had troubles with that, because I didn't see this guy as a good guy, because what he does ultimately is like, he's getting them to commit a felony and get prosecuted for it, which like I'm like, I don't know. But then there's also the thing about like, well, if you don't do it, then they'll try and get it somewhere else. But then the movie makes a case about like, well, that doesn't exist, so there wouldn't be another way. You're just getting something out of them that doesn't exist, so they couldn't commit it unless they do the crime themselves. So like, to me, there was a bit more there of this actual character, which never gets explored. It never goes into that way. It's never like the cops are bad beyond there's a one bad egg of Jasper who's like filmed. There's a couple million views on something really bad that he did. He only gets a suspension for 3 months or 4 months. And then he's back. Yeah, that part of it didn't need to do any of that, but because it is like so much about like the character that he becomes, it feels like the lack of focusing on what that does to him. There's something missing there, but not a big critique, but just something I noticed. Want to talk about the ending as a final point?
Sure.
What do you think?
Sure.
That
was spectacular. The ending.
Yeah.
Sorry, I took my glasses off. Became
How could
normal
you?
Lachlan. Not
Is this Lachlan,
sunglasses
not
Lachlan.
Lachlan?
I love the ending. Sorry, spoilers ahoy, because that ending. If you thought the charisma between Glenn and what's her name
Adria?
again? Adria was good already. This was just top notch. To then throw in Austin, who plays Jasper, Maddie, and Gary were absolutely fantastic all in that scene, and the way it evolved and the way it twisted and ended was just, oh, okay, I didn't see that one coming. And I thought the film had potentially set up something right at the start, and this is where I could kind of be let down, because I thought there was some setups that didn't really and eventually get paid off, and I thought one of them was, spoiler, here we go, here's a spoiler, prepping everybody. I thought Gary was going to kill Jasper the way that he described how he would dispose of the body in the very first hit. I thought that he was going to take off the head, blow it up with some dynamite, throw the fingers out once every 5 miles, and then go feed the body to alligators. We don't know, but I thought that would have been the perfect setup and the perfect payoff to that sort of like, what kind of fucked up person thinks about that? Like, how that's some twist, because that's what they say earlier. And then to think that that's eventually where Gary goes. But obviously, again, the film is a rom-com, so we can't really have them doing any crazy shit like that. So what ends up happening is it's a contract for love, for how they're attached to each other.
Even what the kill that Maddie does of a ex-husband is off screen. Yeah, we don't see it. So it's really not concerned with any of the violence. It's not caught up with that. It's way too caught up with the sexiness of it all. And I really like the scene where he goes in with the phone and like how smart they are about it. This whole movie is, I wrote down pretty early on, this is just a showcase for improv, which like obviously it's written down improv. It's not like he does improv on the actual scene, but the character does kind of that, and that's really fun when it's done well. And good improv is just also kind of good chemistry between two people. If they can yes and each other romantically, that's a good relationship. And I feel like that's what this movie shows, and like that's a strong suit of why I love the Before trilogy so much, because it's an ongoing conversation, and that's that just in a bit more of a relationship crime setting. I'm a big old fan. Yeah. Also, you highlighted it quickly here. I guess we didn't even give you the full notes for it, like how it's been received, but it's been received good, and you should watch it. You don't need to hear any more of it. But the budget less than 10 million for this one. 8.8 million. I don't know how much Netflix paid for the distribution, I guess, in English markets, but if it's not out for you yet over the summer, it will release in cinemas in some places in Europe. For me personally, in Switzerland, this movie is out, I think, in the middle of August, and I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? Everyone who's going to be interested in this film will have seen it, and yeah, I don't know. It's like similar thing to when they did not have distribution for Everything Everywhere All at Once after its premiere in South by Southwest, when there was huge hype, everyone was getting it. There was no release, no one who was even thinking about like getting that one. But money-wise, I feel like this movie is gonna make its money back with what it got for Netflix. Like for Linklater and Powell, this was a success. Hopefully, maybe not. I don't know if they'll work together again in some form of capacity, but yeah, big old success for me, and something lighthearted, good fun, good romance. My type of film. When other than that, After Sun, when it's sad and I bawl my eyes out, here I can just have a good laugh and see some good romance. Those are the two spectrums, the two Ewans that you get. The one that has its glasses on and the one that pulls it down slightly. But I still am at a 4.5 out of 5 for this one. And Lachlan, what about you?
4.5. I would love to say I'm at a 4.5, but I'm not Ewan. I'm at a 4 with like the rest of the Letterboxd community. Because I think it's a good movie. I think it's great.
Mm-hmm.
But favorite movie of the year? Bit of a stretch, but I thought it was good.
I'm gonna keep it there, but hey, I really liked the other films that are in contention, like Challenges, another really sexy movie that worked quite well. But I just am too big of a Linklater fan to not give him the top spot there.